Thank you to all my Camino friends who suggested more statues and monuments for me to include in this video, part 2. We've got some good ones. Are you ready? Let me start this video with perhaps the most recognized landmark on the Camino Frances, the Cruz de Ferro, also known as the Iron Cross. The Cruz de Ferro is rich in history, shrouded in mystery and legend. One prevalent theory suggests that it was originally erected to mark the road during the snowy conditions, ensuring that pilgrims could find their way even when the path was covered in snow. Another theory speculates that the cross is part of the Montes de Mercurio, a collection of stone piles dating back to the Celtic times, strategically placed to mark important locations along the roads, and then later Christianized with crosses. The Iron Cross is perched atop a 5-meter-high wooden post. The landmark marks the highest point on the Camino Frances. It's nestled between the two towns, Foncebadon and Manjarin. There's a tradition of carrying a stone with you from your home, then placing it at the monument. In so doing, you are symbolizing the carrying of your prayers or those of others whose rock you're carrying, and delivering them to the ultimate petition. It's a lovely tradition that I participate in every year. I always write something on my rocks, as do my friends whom I'm carrying the rocks for. Whatever its origin or purpose, it's a beautiful hike with an incredible view, a must-stop and enjoy place on the Camino. I had asked in my last video, part 1, for suggestions of statues and monuments that I should include in part 2. Thank you to those of you who had some great suggestions. The first one comes from Cheryl, a pilgrim friend of mine who lives here in Phoenix. Interesting, we met in Spain last year for the first time. Now, knowing that we're neighbors, we can walk and train together for our next Caminos. Anyway, thank you, Cheryl, and her suggestion is the monument to Roland at Roncesvalles. In 778 of the Common Era, the high mountain pass over the Pyrenees on the present border between France and Spain is where the Battle of Roncesvalles occurred. The Basque attack was in retaliation for Charlemagne's destruction of the city walls of their capital, Pamplona. As the army of Franks retreated across the Pyrenees back to Francia, the rear guard of the Frankish lords was cut off. They tried to stand their ground but were defeated by the Basques. Among those killed in the battle was Roland, a Frankish commander. His death elevated him and his co-warriors, the foremost fighters of Charlemagne's court, into legend, becoming that quintessential role model for knights and also greatly influencing the code of chivalry in the Middle Ages. In and around Roncesvalles, there are 2 statues or monuments to Roland and the battle. The first is positioned just outside the village, the Ibaneta Pass, the place where Roland died. It's a stone monument with the dates engraved on it, 778, when the battle was fought, and 1967, when the monument was placed there. Note the spelling of Roland, or Roldan, the Spanish name. It originally had a sword crossed with two chain maces. Unfortunately, the objects have disappeared, and all you can see now is the stone monument with its engravings. The next monument is placed in the village of Roncevaux-Orega. This large stone has affixed, wrapped around the upper corner, a bronze relief of the famous battle. At the bottom left of the stone is a plaque written in Latin, Spanish, and Euskara, which is the Basque language. Roughly translated, it says, "The Basques rose to the top of the highest mountain." The next recommendation comes from Suzanne and Patty, Camino family who live near me here in Surprise, Arizona. Their suggestion is the Pilgrim sculpture in Padron. Of course, Padron is the location where the Apostle James' remains arrived in Galicia. It's also the place where the famous Padron peppers are from. But back to the statue. As you enter the town of Padron on the Portuguese Camino route, you're walking in on Rua de Castelao. When you get to the old historic part, you're going to make a right turn on the main street. When you hit the main road, the N550, look left and you'll see it. It's very prominent on a grassy median of the highway. It's a 2-meter tall bronze sculpture that pays tribute to the pilgrims in Padron. It was created by the artist from Padron, Camilo Vidal Rodriguez, artistically known as Camilo Sierra. The statue represents a modern pilgrim wearing cargo pants, a modern backpack, complete with a rolled-up sleeping mat strapped to the top. He has ditty bags and other backpacking stuff strapped to the sides. His open shirt reveals a scallop shell around his neck. His right hand is holding a walking staff with a gourd, while in his left hand, he's holding a book, probably a guidebook. From his paperboy hat to his muscular legs and hiking boots, he is the characteristic figure that you'll see anywhere on any Camino. The next recommendation comes from Kevin, better known as the Global Pilgrim. If you aren't familiar with his blog, you're missing out on some great adventures. He and his wife, Mika, spend their year, walking various pilgrim routes all around the world. Truly, all around the world. I think this past year they walked in Japan, Africa, Asia, Indonesia. I think they're heading next to the UK to walk some of the trails up there. They have a house in Muxia, which is where I always meet up with them, but they're rarely there. Honestly, when I grow up, I want to be a Kevin. So Kevin's recommendation is in Burgos. It's just outside the Municipal Albergue. It's a bronze statue of a male pilgrim stripped down to his towel, obviously taking a bath, sitting on a rock, cleaning his feet. At the side of the rock are his belongings, including his backpack, complete with a rolled-up sleeping mat, boots, and socks. His face portrays the contented expression of a pilgrim cleaning up after a long day of walking. Thank you, Kevin. I like this one as well. Of course, I've saved the best for last. This one comes from my dear friend Shanta in Santiago. I've mentioned her before in these videos. She has the vegan restaurant that's just a couple of blocks away from the cathedral in Santiago. Here's the address. Whether you're a vegan or not, her food is outstanding. Anyway, here's her suggestion. It's actually not a statue. Well, yeah, sort of, it is, but no, it really isn't. Here it is. If you go at night to the Plaza de la Quintana, this is the square that's on the east side of the cathedral, and you look under the Baroque clock tower, you will see it. It's the figure of a hunched pilgrim wearing the traditional garb of a medieval religious pilgrim, complete with a cloak, a broad-brimmed hat, a walking staff with a gourd for water, and the customary scallop shell. As you get a closer look at the figure, it's a trick of the light, and an unintentional one at that. The pilgrim's body is the shadow cast by the lightning rod pillar in the corner, and his staff is the shadow of the support column of the clock tower. According to local legend, the pilgrim was a local priest who had fallen in love with a nun of the convent of San Pio. This convent is just across the Plaza Quintana. Just a side note, this is the nunnery where the famous nun cookies are sold. Check out the video referenced right there. Anyway, back to the story. They met every night secretly, traveling through a secret passage under the Quintana stairs that joined the convent to the cathedral. The two lovers planned to elope, and he pledged to meet her in the plaza, dressed as a pilgrim, to conceal his identity. On the appointed evening, he waited in the shadows, but she never came. Since then, every night he returns, hoping to see her. I hope you have enjoyed this video. If so, please hit the like button and leave a comment. This helps put the channel at a higher level, making it easier for Camino enthusiasts to find. Thank you. Now then, how about some music? The selection for this video comes from the 1986 British historical drama, The Mission. Gabriel's Oboe is the theme song that represents the main character, Father Gabriel, who plays the oboe in the untouched wilds of the jungle. Using the power and beauty of music, he tries to make peaceful contact with the indigenous people. I have arranged this music for 4 French horns. Should we rename the music Gabriel's Horns?